How's it going, everybody? C-RadTV back here in our videos, and welcome to another Detroit Lions 2025 NFL Draft Preview. So in the last draft preview, we wrapped up the round one portions of the draft previews by looking at the top defensive back and safety prospects in the late first round of the draft process. And in this video, we're going to be getting into the day two portion of the draft and take a look at the top offensive lineman prospects for rounds 2 and 3 of the 2025 NFL draft, since this class is a lot more heavier in those rounds than say the first round. So this one will be a lot more detailed and a lot more players to go over than the round one video, as always. So anyway, we're going to take a look at some of these top prospects and see who the Lions should keep an eye on in rounds 2 and 3 of the draft process. So let's go. So, starting off with tackles, the first one we're going to go over here, hailing out of Texas, standing 6'5", weighing 335 pounds, we got Cameron Williams. So, for Cameron's strength, opposing size, good height, great bulk, supplemented by above-average short area quickness, especially for someone that sits at 335 pounds. Hands are huge, powerful, can really pop a guy out of his stance. Small edge rushers should fear him, as his power profile stands to be one of the best in this draft class. He's able to align his body to the rusher, continue solid leverage despite quick lateral moves. He's long enough to handle edge rushers with good frames, anchors down quickly, hard to move out of his stance. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he had a disastrous game against Georgia, which took advantage of his messy footwork and put him in a lot of situations where he had to move in more of a slow blocking setup, which is a bad environment for him if you want to watch some tape there. He can't follow edge rushers around the arc without losing his legs. So pass blocking becomes a foot race that he doesn't win as often as he would hope. Generally uncoordinated nature also creates mistimed strikes, which can cause his power profile to be used ineffectively. There were some big whiffs on the tape as well. Creates a lot of holding calls that need to be cleaned up. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Donovan Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game, but he has a lot of things to clean up and pass protection. So he'd be more in terms of like run blocking. Maybe something to keep an eye on for certain running down situations or special teams. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of William and Mary, standing 6'4", weighing 300 pounds, we got Charles Grant. So for Charles, he's your prototype pulling and trapping offensive tackle, because he's going to do his best work in a zone blocking scheme. Smooth mover, used to pull and trap, riser since the end of the college season, so his draft stock continues to rise. In terms of strength, he's a terrific mover, both in a straight line and laterally. Profiles as someone who could dominate in a zone blocking scheme for a team like, say, the 49ers. Super long arms that are well coordinated can help to control defensive ends at the snap. Explodes well out of his stance, operates effectively as a puller. Crush competition at the FCS level, could outmaneuver even the top talents at that division. High quality blocker on the move, can really knock a dude over when he has a head of steam. He's also listed as one of them small school studs in this draft class, because he took the FCS by storm after his pulling reps, looked to provide incredible movement skills to the class. He's easy to project because athleticism is pro-ready and his technique is clean. In terms of his weaknesses, though, the William and Mary scheme is dissimilar to most NFL team style offensive line setup, which it may turn off certain coaches that are looking for a shorter development cycle. And with limited leg drive and footwork, it can also be plodding when asked to stay within a phone booth. His core strength still at an FCS level. He could still get bullied by a bull rush. Technically underdeveloped. Sometimes seems like he's coasting off of athletic traits, and he has a mediocre anchor. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Braxton Jones of the Chicago Bears. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game. Does a lot of things right. Ranked pretty high. Stock's been rising ever since. A bit raw, but hey, someone I think that you could really use and develop in the long run for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of North Carolina State, standing 6'6", weighing 354 pounds, we got Anthony Belton. So for Anthony's strengths, he's a low-built lineman, 35-inch arms, ideal size for the position, physically overwhelming for most defensive ends. He's able to use his upper body strength and torque, can throw opponents off ankles, gifted run blocker, easy power at his disposal. Body type, play style, can hold up at guard, so there's some versatility to be a starting caliber player at multiple positions and improves his draft value. He's unfazed by power rushers, shows the ability to drop his weight, can lock into place. scarcely knocked off balance, no mauler tendencies that played to his best athletic traits. Agility clears the bar for an offensive tackle. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his hands are out of control. He's unfocused later in reps. Sloppy technique that will get exposed against most more technical pass rushers. He hesitates when he works as a polar or combo blocker, unable to match defenders when they get low and try to dip around him. His adjustments are segmented. He's a flash player, doesn't have the rep consistency that most teams want in their line. He was caught off guard too easily by defensive trickery. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Lucas Niang of the Kansas City Chiefs. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Belton's game. Very well built. A few things to clean up, but I think someone definitely keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Michigan, standing 6'6", weighing 332 pounds. We got Miles Hilton. So for Miles, he's your prototype intangibles offensive tackle because he's a good technician at the college level because of his volumes of reps. A lot of his work could accurately be described as teach tape by offensive line coaches. In terms of strengths, great length and weight to play tackle or guard. Impressive strength with powerful hands, sturdy anchor. Baller in the run game, uses his hand size to move defenders. Flashes quick, light feet for a bigger lineman. Has some nice mirroring reps in pass protection. Displays enough agility, explosiveness to be effective when recovering. Flashes good hand placement and hand activity. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he has dealt with nagging injuries throughout his career. Awkward player in terms of balance and leverage. Played an offense that didn't have him get into true vertical pass sets. And he needs more consistency on punch timing and hand placement. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Jermaine Ifedi of the Cleveland Browns. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his games. Has some versatility, a little bit of an injury history, but hey, I think if you ignore that, if you can stay healthy, I think someone to keep an eye on for sure. Now to our next player, hailing out of Oregon State, standing 6'9", the tallest player in this draft class. Weighing 329 pounds, we got Gerard Christian Lichanahan. So in terms of endurance and strengths, great athleticism, good agility, explosiveness, tremendous length and size for the position. Surprising mean streak, puts effort into sustaining blocks. Tapes filled with terrific mirroring and recovery reps. Solid technique, good hand placement. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he needs more power in his lower body to help with his play strength concerns. His punches lack oomph. Mediocre anchor can lead to losses to power, and he loses leverage very quickly due to his massive height. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired offensive tackle Nate Solder. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game, and he's very tall, so can really protect the blind side. A few things to clean up, but I think somebody to keep an eye on here for sure. And the final player we're going to go over here before we move on to guards, we have hailing out of West Virginia, standing 6'6", weighing 317 pounds. We got Wyatt Millum. So for Wyatt's strengths, quick and twitchy in both his upper and lower body. Has the agility to match most defenders in pass protection. Slick second-level mover, can find linebackers in space, make plays downfield. He's able to swing his hips around on reach blocks and seal off angles. Excellent athletic tools that will have coaches believing he can be coached up. In terms of his weaknesses, though, plays lighter than listed, lacks much impact when he collides with defenders. Feet are overly giddy, can create some balance issues, lacks mass in his lower half, must overcompensate by leading the blocks and putting his upper half in everything. His anchor will need a year or two to develop once he gets into the league. Still playing with wide hands-on contact most of the time, will need to clean up his hand usage, lacks usual length for playing tackle. He's also been listed as someone that could disappoint in this draft class because of his stubby and technically unrefined. And he has athletic traits. He appears, though, to be heading inside the guard, where his strength will help him handle interior rushers, which, honestly, that's more of a nitpick, if anything. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Wanya Morris, the Kansas City Chiefs. So, overall, a lot of things to like out of his game, a couple of things that need to be cleaned up. But, hey, if he can go to guard, maybe someone to keep an eye on here for sure. Now moving on to guards. The first one we're going to go over here, hailing out of Missouri, standing 6'3", weighing 314 pounds. He got Armin Membu. So for Armin, he's your prototype initial quickness guard because his athletic traits jump off the screen. His footwork and lateral agility makes him difficult to handle. In terms of strength, stocky build allows for great leverage and pad level. Elite athlete, good agility, speed, explosiveness. Extremely quick feet and pass protection. Active hands allows for good hand fighting reps. Extremely strong with heavy hands, sturdy anchor, Mauler in the run game moves, can move defenders easily. Scheme versatile with the athleticism from zone and the strength for gap, counter, and power. Tackle experience and provides swing tackle upside. Clean bill of health, no major injury history. In terms of his weaknesses, though, modest arm length, it likely forces him to play on the interior. He's only played tackle in his career. Could have a learning curve adjusting to a new position. Often leans when he engages blocks due to his length. Inconsistent motor play-to-play when sustaining blocks. Wide hand placement needs improvement. Poor coordination with tripping and whip blocks on tape. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Peter Skoronski at the Tennessee Titans. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Armin's game. I think someone to keep an eye on here for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of North Dakota State, standing 6'5", weighing 305 pounds, we got Gray Sable. So for Gray, he's your prototype run blocking guard, so he's very good at blocking for the run because he's both strong and his efficiency. It makes him the best run blocker in this draft class. In terms of strengths, excellent blend of power and speed. Nimble for a guard, not easily put on his back. Footwork's high level. Feet are coordinated, churn well enough to create good forward push, but heavy enough to maintain a good anchor when he's asked to stand still. He has tree trunks for legs, makes him difficult to move. Strength profile is very nice. Hands that shoot out quickly, hit like bricks. Able to hold guys off while moving with one arm. Mean streak and run blocking really shows as he loves to make a pancake block. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's not quite a 10 out of 10 anywhere in this game, but he's more of a jack-of-all-trades, master and none type. Occasionally creates problems for himself due to trying to go for those mauling blocks where he gets out over his skis. Loses the leverage battle, lessening the usefulness of his natural power. Instincts as a run blocker are sometimes off target, occasionally stonewalls instead of strong-arming the defender. It forcing his running back to make an unnecessary cut around him. Has some shaky moments of pass protection. He doesn't shoot his hands out quickly enough to engage the rusher. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Mitch Morse of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game. Very strong, very good in run game. Definitely I think someone to keep an eye on here for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Georgia, standing 6'6", weighing 317 pounds, we got Tate Ratledge. So for Tate's strengths, good pad level pre-snap for a tall guard, strong lineman, sturdy anchor, heavy hands, excellent pass protector, counters, power well, flashes good push as a run blocker, high motor player, works to the whistle on every down, smart player, reads blitzes, agile enough to counter them, potential center versatility, snaps in practice and camp, resets hands well when hand fighting, great on combo blocks and double teams. Has enough athleticism to effectively climb. He is established veteran with 37 career starts at Georgia. Also been listed as one of the top sleeper picks in this draft class because he's tall in stature and mighty in strength. Anchor and upper body combined with a wealth of experience that could make him a future NFL starter. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's mediocre athlete in terms of speed, agility, explosiveness, limited effectiveness as a puller or zone blocker, wide hand placement, that tendency to lean when engaging blocks, that's what it leads to. Concerning medicals with a Liz Frank injury in 2021, major ankle injury in 2024, and he missed games due to injury in every season at Georgia. So every year he played at Georgia, he had missed time, couldn't stay healthy. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Ben Cleveland of the Baltimore Ravens. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game. Has a lot of experience, but, that medical history is a bit of a red flag. He's been injury-prone every year at Georgia. So, it will be a massive gamble to take him for sure. Maybe that would be a massive gamble. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Ohio State, standing 6'4", weighing 320 pounds, we got Donovan Jackson. So for Donovan, he's your prototype intangibles guard, because he played almost everywhere on the Ohio State O-line. Aced most assignments well. Experiences, leadership are traits that will stand out in NFL interviews. So definitely a locker room leader here. In terms of his strengths, sports and outstanding length for an offensive guard. Will be a favorite for scouts based on his measurables. Held his ground against the power of Notre Dame's Howard Cross and Riley Mills in their 2023 matchup if you want to watch some tape there. Size and strength allows him to maul linebackers, clear lanes without much resistance. His length may have some teams willing to play on a tackle in dire strikes, but he didn't falter when he moved to left tackle for the end of 2024 after Josh Simmons was injured. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his hands are late to the target,
Allows slicker pass rushers to slip around him off the snap. Always plays at the end of his arms, will overextend to get contact. Feet are heavy and plodding when he gets into space. Power only guard will struggle as a zone blocker. Physical tools are carrying his technique and intangibles. Lack of quickness could inhibit further development. In terms of his pro comparison, he's been compared to Bobby Evans of the Arlington Renegades in the UFL. So overall, a lot of things to like out of his game. Does a lot of things right. And a locker room leader, and not there alone. And since Dan Campbell always values locker room leaders, I think that'll make Dominic Jackson easily someone that the Lions will definitely have an eye on for sure. And the final guard we're going to go over here before we move on to centers. We have hailing out of Arizona, staying 6'5", weighing 330 pounds. We got Jonah Savainaya. It's a bit of a tongue twister name because he's Samoan, because Samoans usually have some tongue twister last names. But anyway, in terms of Jonah's strengths, great size, thick, chunky build, extremely quick feet in this pass set that are the best in this draft class. Good reactionary athleticism to reset and recover well. Flashes good anchors at times. Solid athlete in terms of speed, explosiveness, agility. Quality mover for his size. Has developmental potential that will be enticing to teams. In terms of his weaknesses, though, inconsistent tape due to playing out of position. Hand placement's inconsistent, often too high. Poor footwork in his pass sets. Unfortunate habit of letting defenders get into his chest and test his anchor. Suffered a lower body injury in 2024. Plays within himself. Doesn't get out of his comfort zone regardless of what the situation calls for. He also has been listed as a player that could disappoint in the NFL. Because with the size and power profile that teams covet in a guard, his downside is that he has the technical skills of a developmental prospect. So it may take a couple years for him to reach his potential. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Matthew Bergeron of the Atlanta Falcons. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game for sure. Has a lot of things teams like. But he's very extremely raw. So it would take probably a couple years to develop him to see him at his full potential. But this might be someone worth taking a gamble on for sure if he can reach his potential. If he ends up in the right situation, that is. Now moving on to centers. The first one we're going to go over here. Hailing out of Georgia. Standing 6'3", weighing 310 pounds. We got Jared Wilson. So for Jared, he's a prototype initial quickness center because his athleticism is likely going to be shocking if pre-combine indicators have worked their salt. First step off the snap's explosive. His movement skills make him a solid candidate for a pre-draft jump on draft boards. In terms of strengths, shows a lot of life in blocking and motion. Wields heavy hands, smooth movement, combination of traits, races his profile with evaluators. Built well with room for more muscle and weight if necessary. Good potential ceiling given his ability, relative, and experience. Keeps his hands engaged with a defender, keeps a steady course, redirects with intention, avoids sloppy reactive tactics to gain movement. Creates clear, wide running lanes, can move a player around the arc, enough athleticism to limit concerns. Could be considered at guard in the right scheme despite average arm length. In terms of his weaknesses, though, not fully developed at the position, started only one season, limited arm length, causes difficult projection to guard in most schemes. Recovers well athletically, but doesn't reset his hands quick enough. Can lose battles simply through lack of engagement. Snap release could be a little bit more dialed in. Sluggish with initial hand movement. Habit he could quickly remove with reps and refinement. Loses ground easily on tandem blocks. Needs to work on gaining and maintaining leverage and anchor if he wants to take on NFL nose tackles. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Shane Lemieux of the New Orleans Saints. Overall, a lot of things to look at Jared's game. Very quick off the snap. Think someone to keep an eye on for sure, especially possibly for guard. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Oregon State, standing 6'4", weighing 305 pounds. We got Joshua Gray. So for Joshua, he's a prototype downfield center because he moves well down the field. Operates with intent when he reaches defenders. He's the best in open space of any center in this draft class. In terms of strength, surprisingly physical for his size. Has some shock in his hands for a lighter lineman. Easy lateral mover that can cover a ton of ground on short notice. Blend of balance, body control, quickness makes him a high-level reach blocker. Rare fluidity and flexibility once he gets under the pads of opponents. Hard leg driver, placement and edge as a run blocker. Nearly impossible to slip around in the run game once he gets his feet going. In terms of his weaknesses, still 32-inch arms, small frame. Likely lock him in as an interior player. Scheme-specific lineman that will be too small for most power-heavy offenses. Has to lunge and overreact to get his hands on longer opponents. Lack of mass leads to a lot of arm blocks slipping off his target. He'll take his lumps against power rushers early in his NFL career. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Zach Tom and the Green Bay Packers. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Joshua's game. Plays very physical, does a lot of things right. Someone I think to keep an eye on here for sure. And the final center, the final offensive lineman, the final player we're going to go over inside this video, we have hailing out of Boston College, standing 6'4", weighing 299 pounds, we got Drew Kendall. So for Drew, he's your prototype pulling trapping center because he has good athletic traits, footwork to push defenders, he excels with technique, and I think technique is the big selling point here. I think technique is the most important thing you could have as a lineman or a player of any kind, because having speed or power or all that stuff, it doesn't mean jack shit if you don't have the technique to back it up. Anyway, though, in terms of strengths, great power in his upper and lower body, excellent anchor, grip strength profile gives him potential guard flexibility, great run blocker, sustains and finishes blocks, high motor player, works to the whistle with physicality, sophisticated player, near textbook technique, great pad level, hand quickness, hand placement, good pass protector, can handle one-on-one blocking duties, intelligent player that can handle the mental side of the position, clean injury history, no major setbacks. Terms his weaknesses, though, undersized and light for the position, has shorter arms and weighs less than 300 pounds, doesn't move people effectively in the run game, lacks the high-end athletic tools seen in other center prospects, moves a little stiff in pass protection when he's mirroring, and his pad level gets a little high at times. In terms of NFL comparison, he's been compared to Andre James of the Las Vegas Raiders. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Drew's game. Very strong physical. Does a lot of things right. Great technique, hey, I think there's I think someone to keep an eye on for sure. Maybe could have some flexibility at guard, so maybe someone to keep an eye on for sure. But yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up for this Detroit Lions NFL draft preview for 2025. Overall, a lot of interesting prospects in day 2 in the NFL draft. Where I think for the Lions, O-line options are a lot stronger here. Like, I'll be honest, the Lions do need to take an O-lineman, and I think the perfect day for it is day 2, is rounds 2 and 3 of the draft, because there are so many prospects on the board the Lions could go. And the Lions do got a 3rd-round pick now after they trade their pick this year away to go get Giovanni Manu last year. Because they got one as a compensatory pick due to Aaron Glenn getting hired by the New York Jets because of the Dan Rooney rule. So, yeah. Definitely some prospects to keep an eye on for sure. It's mainly, especially at guard and center. A lot of the centers in this draft class have the flexibility to go to guard. But anyway, that'll wrap it up for this video here. That's all I got to say. Next draft preview, we'll be going to the other side of the defensive line to check out some of the day 2 defensive line and prospects for the draft process. But anyway, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I got to say. And I'll see you all whatever I make next. I'm out.